गुड इवनिंग एवरीबडी। तो आज का जो हमारा लेक्चर है बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट टॉपिक के ऊपर है, दैट इज़ ऑन द एंशंट हिस्ट्री एंड आर्ट एंड कल्चर। सो टुडे ये जो कोर्स हम शुरू कर रहे हैं ये स्पेसिफिकली उन स्टूडेंट्स के लिए जिन्होंने रिक्वेस्ट किया था कि दैट दे फाइंड एंशंट हिस्ट्री वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट। सो फॉर स्टडिंग एंशंट हिस्ट्री आर मेन सोर्सेज वुड बी आर एस शर्मा, दैट इज़ द ओल्ड NCERT, and themes 1, that is the new NCERT. For factual information, you can also refer to Lucent. That's a general knowledge book that is easily available in the market. And also one of the major sources to study the art and culture would be Nitin Singhania's book. So in that book, you will actually find very specific and very relevant information which is been written in a very lucid manner. So you can just refer to that book also. Now without wasting time, let's just start studying. So we will first be starting with the Harappan civilization. That is one of the very important topics of our syllabus. So let's just see Harappan civilization first, and let's just look into some of the very important features of it. What actually are the reference sources for it? Okay. Okay, fine. So in Harappan civilization, first of all, we will see some of its very important features, and how this culture can be studied, how it would be divided. Firstly, this culture is associated with distinctive pottery and agriculture, pastoralism, and some of the crafts. Now with crafts I mean that it is associated with pottery making. Some sculptures are there, then some you will find some sort of seals and ceilings, and some beads and the jewelry associated with it. So things like that we are going to study in our this lecture. Okay. Now these lectures will actually come in form of short videos, so you can just refer to our channel and you can keep on studying about it. Fine. Now moving ahead, let's just study about the phases, in what phases this particular civilization can be studied. So we will first look into the phases of the Harappan civilization. And also before that, it is important for us to understand as to where this particular civilization developed, that is the location part of it. Now the location of this civilization is in India as well as in Pakistan. Now because earlier it was all one particular geographical location, now we can say that it is located in the northwestern part of Indian subcontinent. Now इंडियन सबकॉन्टिनेंट से हमारा मतलब है कि वी विल सी पाकिस्तान, वी विल सी इंडिया. Okay, so in total we will be talking about Indian subcontinent. Now if you see in this map, it is in the old NCERT book, so it shows the extent of Harappan civilization. So if you see here, we said that it is located in the northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent, right? Now with that I mean that in this particular part of the Indian map, you will see that this civilization starts from Jammu and Kashmir in the north till the Narmada River in the south, Afghanistan in the west to western UP in the east. So this is the particular extent of this civilization. And in this you will also find that some of the important parts that this civilization is covering are Punjab, Sindh, Baluchistan, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and also fringes of western UP. Then some of the important cities are Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Channu-daro, Lothal, Kalibangan, Banavali. So these cities that I'm talking about, these important cities, they are spread across India and Pakistan both. So when in 1921 this particular civilization, it was found by the British archaeologists, the first city that was found was Harappa, and after which actually this particular civilization was named as Harappan Civilization, and also it is called Indus Valley Civilization. Why Indus Valley Civilization? Because the entire, the civilization, it is located on the Indus River, right? Indus River and its tributaries. So the entire civilization, because it is located on the Indus and its tributaries, it is also called the Indus Valley Civilization, but we are referring it to as Harappan culture also. Fine. Now let's just move on and study about other important topics. So, like I said, we have to study about the important phases in which this culture can be studied. So, this culture can be divided into three important phases. So, the first phase that we call is the early phase, then is the mature phase, and then is the later phase. The early phase is between 8500 BC to 2600 BC. The mature phase is between 2600 BC and 1700 BC. The later phase is between the 1900 BC and 1750 BC. So if you see the dates, you will find that the mature phase and the later phase, they are quite overlapping. So we do not have a very clear-cut demarcation of these phases as to when it started and when it ended. So we can say that these two phases, the mature and the later phases, they are overlapping. Fine. Now let's just look into some of the important features of these phases. Fine. Now we'll start with the early phase. Now, if you say the early phase, like I mentioned, that it was located from 8500 BC to 2600 BC. So this was the time frame in which it was developing. Now, the main features of this particular phase are that, there is no use of iron. So in this particular phase, the iron was not used at all. Instead, there was use of copper, and also there was use of bronze. Okay, both these metals were used during this particular phase. Then there was no evidence, that we do not have any evidence that during the early phase we have horses. So there was no horse. Thirdly, there was, the size of the village settlement, it was gradually increasing. So it was increasing. Third is that. And then thirdly, there was also slight variation in the pottery that was being developed in this phase. So there was variation in the kind of pottery that was being developed. Then some of the important sites of this phase are Amrinal, Kot Diji, Mehergarh, Rahmandheri. Then we have Siswal, Dam Sadat. So these phases, these important cities that I mentioned, the cities that you see here, the reason why I've mentioned all these kind of facts is that because in some of the questions in the UPSC paper only, they are actually listed the name of the sites, and they've asked you to tell us which phase they belong to, early or the early or mature or the later phases. So it is important for us to understand and know the names of these locations. So for easy retention and learning of these kind of facts, it is always good that you refer to any of the maps or any of the books in which the pictographic representation is given. So it gives you a longer retention of these kind of facts. Fine. So you can refer to the maps in the books, and it will actually help you much better in retaining. Fine. Now moving ahead, we will talk about the mature phase. Now the mature phase is one of the most important phases that we are going to study. It is the main area of our study when we talk about the Harappan culture and other features. So let's see. The extent of this phase was between 2600 BC to 1700 BC. Some of the important features of the phase are that there was surplus agriculture. So there was surplus agriculture. Now, how do we know that there was surplus agriculture? We know that there is no archaeological evidence available. There is no written, no literary evidence available. But yes, we have archaeological evidences. We have whole cities that have been dug out. So there are no literary evidences. But yes, we know there was surplus agriculture because of these archaeological sources that we have. We've seen that there are many granaries that have been found in the major cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. So yes, that is how we know there was surplus agriculture. Secondly, the villages that were there, they were existing, they developed into major cities. Then third, we know that the most important feature of this phase should be planned township. We know that the cities were planned in a very good manner. The entire plan was made first before constructing any of the cities. Then we see in this phase that there is uniformity of pottery. So similar kind of pottery can be seen in all the cities. Then we see that there is a standard size of weights and measures also. And then you will find that the baked bricks were used. So these baked bricks also had a uniform size of 4:2:1, except for Kalibangan, which were using 3:2:1. Now, another important feature is that there was existence of long trade that we know because of some of the seals and pottery that we find of Mesopotamia and other cities, other civilization that were there during this particular phase. Now we'll talk about the other, before I talk about that, this particular mature phase is one of the important phases. You need to learn all the important features and all the important things that you know about cities in this particular stage. Then we should also know the important sites of the mature phase. Now, if you see the important size, you can see in the map also on the new NCERT book. You can just pull that up and you will find that there's a map for mature phase that mentions about Harappa, Banavali, Kalibangan, Channudaro, Mohenjo-daro, Dholavira, Rangpur, Lothal, Amri. Now Amri again is like coming in the mature phase. Then we have Balakot, Nageshwar, etc. So there are other cities also that you will find. Fine, so you can just look up the map. For this particular phase, you can refer to the new NCERT and you will find the map there. Okay, so this was about the mature phase. Now we will study about the later phase. So later phase actually is a phase, like I said, it was an overlapping phase. So it is towards the diminishing or the the ending of the particular culture, the mature phase. There was a decline of Harappan culture. So that is what you would see.